Hello and welcome to my stream. In this one, as the description also says, I'm going through all the classes and all the things that you can equip or unlock in Black Ops 2 and talk about how viable it is, if it's worth using, what the pros, what the cons are, and just give you a quick rundown of all those things. If I don't forget, I might even add timestamps, but that's after the stream. Okay, let me start with the guns first and go through them category by category. Okay, let's start with the assault rifles. The Mtar is essentially a gun with about 700 RPM, needs 3 bullets to kill, range is not that great, has no recoil, reload is kind of slow, movement stats are all pretty much the same across the assault rifles with the exception of the Type 25 and I think the SMR. Overall, it is a solid choice if you have more fights up close, but it will never be the best choice. So for that, if there were tiers, this would probably be slightly above mid, but not much higher. Okay, the Type 25 shoots fast, has low damage, recoil is kind of low. The iron sights don't look as pretty as on the Mtar, for example. Reload is also pretty slow. Overall, not a great gun. You can use it. It's like there's nothing really in here that is too bad to be used. But it is definitely on the lower end of assault rifles. Now we get to the Swat, which is the first burst rifle on here and 1 out of 2. In the assault rifle class, that is. It is the burst that shoots slower, but has more damage compared to the M8, which we'll get to later. It is a 3-round burst, and you need exactly 3 bullets to hit for the majority of ranges. The burst itself shoots at around 900 RPM, as far as I'm aware, with the delay between the bursts being about the length that you would need to get one burst off. So it's not very spammable. In most situations, I would say if you don't kill them within your first 2 bursts, you're gonna have a bad time. Most of the times you should 1 burst them, but if you have the accuracy and know how to position yourself well, this can be a very, very, very good gun. And if you don't have those things, it's gonna be pretty bad. It's not very forgivable, let's put it this way. Now we get to the FAL. Please don't. It's one of the only overpowered guns in this game, which is kind of unfortunate. It is semi-auto, which means you have to click for every shot. However, especially on PC, it's very easy to spam the clicks. Or you could just put a macro that clicks for you as fast as the gun could shoot, which is really easy to do, and I'm not condoning it, quite the contrary. I'm just saying there are people who are doing this and it's really annoying. Even on controller, it's not too hard to hit the cap, at least in like shorter bursts, and you only need to hit 2 of those bullets while shooting at a cap of around 600, which is pretty stupid. That thing just it just melts you. You're just an insta kill. Please don't use it. It was banned in comp. It was so looked down upon on console back in the days that nobody ever used it. Like not even the Swats. Nobody. Like it was like some kind of gentleman's agreement between virtually everyone. And I think only on PC this is actually being used. Which is really annoying, let's face it. Okay, the M27. For the assault rifle category, this is probably the worst gun you could possibly use. It shoots pretty slow. I mean, kind of similar speed to like the Scar and FAL. Like not really much faster, but it needs one extra bullet to kill at pretty much all ranges. It has very, very low recoil. It does have a decent range. It just lacks the damage output. It's gonna feel like a hit marker machine. It feels like you're going to be outgunned a lot up close. You basically shoot slower and do less damage than most of the other guns. So it's a gun to use for fun, but not when you're actually trying to win. Okay, the Scar Age, that's the pub stomping gun number 1, and there is mostly one reason why it is so popular in pubs, but not so much in comp. That is, it's kind of good at everything, but not great. I mean, the TTK, it's good, it's not great. The range is really good, but there are better ones. The way that it handles is pretty standard for assault rifles, as pretty much always. And, well, overall, you get a solid gun that doesn't really have any weaknesses. Like up close, you're gonna be fine. At long range, you're gonna be fine. However, it has one additional benefit, which is it has a pretty big damage output, even though it's still 3 bullets. Those bullets deal more damage than the AN-94, for example. And it has a higher wall penetration, which means if you shoot through a wall, you lose less damage. Which means the 3-shot kill or a 4-shot kill through a wall will be there longer than with, say, the AN-94. That's why in a 1v1 on Nuketon, you will never see any other gun unless it's explicitly agreed upon to use something else. Other than that, you can always use it. There's no situation where it's bad. There's just none. No matter who you are, what you are, how good, how bad, solid choice. Now we get to the SMR, which is, you could say, the FAL light. It has a little bit wider hip fire, so it's not as effective. The reload is a lot slower. You get less bullets in the first place. It moves a bit slower. Like, everything is slower about this gun. It also fires slower, so you can't spam it as quickly. You can still do it pretty quickly, but not as quickly. And it still does 2 bullets, and it has a lot more range. So you will usually not find any ranges where it needs 3 hits. It also has more recoil, if I haven't mentioned that yet. It is a strong gun. I think a lot of people underestimate how good it is, just because it's overshadowed by the FAL. And if you look at it, if I had a choice between FAL and SMR, pure performance, go with the FAL 100% of the time. There is absolutely no way that this is in any case better. Okay, now we get to the M8A1. This is one of the guns that is actually used in competitive play, but in pubs, not as much. Maybe in S&D, but you will hardly see it in any respawn match modes. That is because this is a burst gun. It has a 4-round burst, and you normally need 4 bullets to hit to kill. The burst is pretty fast, and you can spam it really fast. The only problem that you will face is the ammo. It's not very fast to reload. You only get 32 bullets in total, which means 8 bursts before you have to reload. And it can just feel a little bit spammy. So if you have only a few targets, if you don't have to worry about reloading a relatively slow gun in the middle of enemies, then it's a really, really good gun. If you're holding places, if you just push single persons, stuff like that, it's really, really good. It melts you up close. It even has a free shot range, which it really doesn't need, but it just got it for whatever reason. It has very low recoil. It's very forgivable. It's definitely worth using. And lastly, for the assault rifle category, we have the AN-94. So the AN-94 is very, very similar to the Scar-H in the way that when you hold down the trigger, it has the same fire rate. It needs the same amount of bullets to kill. And of course, all the movement stats are all the same across all assault rifles, with those exceptions I mentioned beforehand. Like the Type 25 is a tiny bit faster, SMR is a tiny bit slower, everything else the same. So what sets them apart? The AN-94 has this hyper burst that it says right here. The first 2 rounds of each burst are fired at a faster rate. That means when you start shooting, the first 2 bullets, they come out faster, which means if you hit them, you kill faster. So you will all the time outgun Scar-H's as long as you can hit your first shots. Furthermore, it has less recoil, which might make it a little bit easier at range, even though, and that's the final separation, it has less range. So the free shot range won't be as long as with the Scar-H. With Scar-H it's kind of ridiculously long. With the AN, you will often find yourself in situations at like medium to long ranges where you already need 4 bullets to hit. Not that it's bad, it's just that the Scar-H actually has a strength in there. So what would I say would be the overall best guns? Did my Black Ops 2 just freeze? Yes, my Black Ops 2 froze. Great. Of course it happens on a stream. Like, of course. Of course. Let me just restart the game, if it lets me. Of course. Okay, now without the visuals. So, if you want to play public matches and you have a game mode like TDM, especially with a lot of players, I would go for the Scar-H or the AN-94. Those are above everything else, unless you also count the FAL, which is strong enough, but it's just a little bit of a dick move. The next kind of tier that's like having fun but still being really viable would be the Mtar, definitely up there. The SMR, if you really just want to have fun, which can be a little bit more difficult to use, however. You have the Swat and the M8, which are the 2 burst guns. When it comes down to it, they're not very, very different in how good they are, but they're good at a little bit different things, and for competitive use, M8 just makes more sense. Okay. Now we have at least this out of the way. Okay. Oh, and for the class setups, for this, I would use Fastmax and a stock. If we're going for the Type 25, pretty much the same. Fastmax and a stock. If we go for this one, the SWAT, I would take a reflex sight and its stock. For the FAL, reflex and stock. For the M27, I would definitely have the stock. And other than that, it is a little bit up to you. Like, you could use quick draw just to try and get a little bit of an advantage up close to mitigate the downsides, or you could just play with a suppressor, which is more than fine. Scar H, I think this one should be obvious. Suppressor and stock. Unless you play on Nuketon. If you play on Nuketon, but only then, I would use the Fastmax, FMJ, and stock. FMJ just because Nuketon you're gonna shoot for walls. Fastmax to minimize the downtime that you have, and stock is just stock. You always want to stray faster. Then we have the SMR. For the SMR, there are two things you could recommend, which number one, reflex stock, pretty standard again. However, if you want to have a little bit more fun and just mess around, you could use something like Fastmax in fire mode, which would make the gun fully automatic. And what full auto does is, on the SMR, reduce the fire rate from the maximum down to like 500 or so, or 450, not quite sure what exactly it is, and reduce the range a little bit. But on the SMR, you will still two-shot most people, it still kind of melts people. On the FAL, it drops it down to a 3-shot kill almost immediately, just because it was so overpowered they nerfed it back then. So, yeah. M8, reflex, stock. Always. Absolutely always. And for the AN, now you have some more options. Stock will always be one. You can get away only using a stock. You can do something like quick draw and stock, which is what I would probably use if it was a competitive environment. Suppressor and stock is also just fine for like pubs. And well, that's mostly the ones that you would use. You could use reflex stock, some people do this. I don't see the point of the reflex just because the irons are very, very clean, but there are people who do this out there. Okay, next category, the SMGs. Now for the SMGs, you have the MP7, which shoots fast, has low damage, low recoil, easy to use. The speed, like movement and stuff like that, is pretty much all the same except for the Peacekeeper. So overall, not actually good. It's one of the worst SMGs in the game. Which doesn't mean it's bad. You can definitely use it. As I mentioned before, almost everything, or actually everything in Black Ops 2 is viable to be used. But this would fail in any competitive environment. The PDW is one of those that shoots a little bit slower. Not slow, but slower. And has higher damage in return. So you shoot at about 750 bullets per minute. And you need 3 bullets to hit. Now, this is very, very similar gun to the Msmc, with the difference being with the PDW you get 50 round magazines instead of 30, but you get less range and maybe a little bit more awkward handling, in the sense that the recoil is a little bit worse and the reload is a little bit slower, I think. But not too sure about the reload. It's fast enough, really. Overall, one of the better ones, but probably outshined by the Msmc either way. Now the Vector, very, very similar to the MP7. Shoots fast, it is very, very low recoil, and it's still not one of the better SMGs. It's not at all. At the very, very best, it's average. Well, actually, I would say it is average, pretty much, with the MP7. Very, very similar guns. I personally would prefer the Vector over the MP7. Some people might agree, some might disagree. It's really up for debate. But essentially, you have a gun that pumps out bullets really fast. You need 4 bullets to hit. It moves decently fast. It has less magazine than the MP7. However, it also has less recoil. It's just a little bit easier to use at range than the MP7. Now, Msmc, pretty much the best SMG in the game. It shoots a little bit slower, again like the PDW at around 700, 750, and it needs 3 bullets to hit. But compared to the PDW, it gets more range, and it has the highest range in the SMG category outside of the Peacekeeper. So overall, it's a really good gun. It can definitely hold its own, and compared to the assault rifles in the game, you will normally outgun them at close range, but at range you will start to struggle very, very quickly. So you have that. The GCOM. The GCOM, in like very, very, very old days, was once upon a time actually overpowered. So was the PDW, but like the GCOM is kind of funnier. But they nerfed it again. Now it is a 3-run burst. It is extremely fast bursts, however. You could also put select fire on it and make it full auto, although it's not advised generally. And it is very much usable, actually. But for the SMG category, I would probably say this is the worst. This is like the single worst gun. And that's just because, for all intents and purposes, you could swap it out with a Scorpion and you would just be better off in every single way. Which leads us to the Scorpion. The absolute bullet holes, it shoots the fastest in the SMG category and, well, in the game. And it needs 4 bullets to hit, has very, very low range, pretty low recoil, however. It's very vertical, very easy to control when you get some practice in. But it might be a little bit difficult if you're a newer player and don't have that experience. There were 2 SMGs that were actually viable in competitive game modes. One of them is being Msmc, the other one is a Scorpion. It kills faster, it's very forgivable to some extent on like single targets. It just melts you if you can get it right. But the ammo can be a little bit of a problem if you have a lot of players going on. It might not be enough bullets to actually get everyone, and the reload is kind of slow on its own. Then we get to the Peacekeeper, which is the very, very first DLC gun in Call of Duty history. And it's one of the bad SMGs, actually. So it says full automatic personal defense weapon, rifle class, accuracy and range with SMG speed and handling. And this is partially true. Like the accuracy and the range are actually pretty good. The speed and the handling, if you were compared to assault rifles, would be really good. Like you don't even need a stock on it just because it kind of has a built-in, you could say. However, it shoots slow and it has low damage. It shoots about as fast as the Scar H, but needs 1 more bullet to kill. So it has a very similar situation with the M27, where they both shoot slow, deal low damage, and even though everything else is kind of fine, it's yeah, not exactly the best trade-offs you could have. If it was compared to M27, I would prefer the Peacekeeper just because it is faster. Otherwise, it's not worth it. So, Msmc and Scorpion would be the best, followed by the PDW, then Vector MP7, then the Peacekeeper, then the G-Con. And they're not super far away, like, don't get me wrong. They're all very much usable, but that's the order that I would put them in. With the MP7, you could do something like quick draw and even extended mag or fast mag or even suppressor. Long barrel, not really worth it, but you could. So that's like one normal setup you could do. PDW, I would probably go for fast mags and then either the suppressor, or if you don't want to use a suppressor, I would use quick draw. For the Vector, you can use quick draw and fast mags. You will need to reload a lot, and getting every single tiny advantage you can squeezed out of the gun is probably pretty useful. However, same with the PDW, you could just go for fast mag suppressor. It works just fine as well. For the Msmc, this is pretty clear. You use the quick draw, use the extended clip. You get 40 bullets in total with this. You get really good mobility in all categories, and this will just be a very, very strong choice. With the G-Com, it depends a little bit on how you want to play. You could use the reflex, but don't find it necessary. I would definitely have the fast mags on again, and probably the quick draw handle. You could again change for a suppressor. It's yeah, like the range is not that great to begin with. It's not like you'll reduce its strength, but I think this would be what I would mostly use. For the Scorpion, quick draw, fast mags, really easy choice. The extended clip, as this in a default class, is just too slow for the reload, and it's not gonna help you as much as the fast mags will, trust me. And the quick draw is just because it's such a close-up weapon. You want to have this kind of mobility, you want to be right up in their face, and this will help you have the accuracy while doing so. The Peacekeeper is a little bit more difficult because I mean, you could use the quick draw, but you're not helping the gun's strength. Like, you should probably not be up in their face, you should keep them at the range. So something like either fast mags or extend clip would be a good choice, and probably suppressor. So something like this would be fine. And next category, which is shotguns. Oh yeah, and the PDW, it was crazy in the first couple of patches. You could slap rapid fire on it, and it would actually be good. Nowadays, rapid fire was nerfed to the ground, and it's pretty garbage. It's just for the memes. Like, you could put rapid fire on the Peacekeeper, and it would shoot as fast as the MP7 with the same damage, but more or less the same range as well again, because it reduces the range. But you would have more recoil on the Peacekeeper than the MP7. So there's no reason to ever use it on any gun. Okay, so shotguns. Remington. That's the go-to, look at me, I'm trolling you, haha, shotgun. It's very easy to use, has really silly one-shots at a pretty decent range. It's pretty annoying, it's the pump action, and It's probably one of the better choices if you go for actual performance, but I think with shotguns you're not looking for performance, you're looking to troll. And for the Remington, I would just give it this nostalgic, iconic troll level. You know, like everyone knows it's annoying, nobody likes it, that's why I use it. Not because it's the best, not because it's the most annoying, just because everyone knows it's annoying. With the S12, I think on one of my streams I almost nuked with it when the server kind of died. And it is actually kind of viable to be played. It says deadly at short range, and it truly is. It's the semi-automatic shotgun. You can spam it semi-fast, and the damage is not that great, but it's enough. If you aim down sights, actually, it's very much usable. But it can get you some situations where you get like 6 hit markers and die. The KSG is a slug, which means you're not shooting those buckshots that spread out, you're shooting one big bullet. And that means you have to be accurate while shooting. That being said, it is a one-shot at pretty long range. In hardcore, pretty much always until a bullet disappears. And it's probably up there with the Remington. I would say the Remington is a lot easier to use, but the KSG is just as deadly and annoying. The M1216, that's the 4-round burst shotgun, you could say. So you have to rotate this bottom part after every 4 rounds, and you do this 4 times, then you have to reload. It shoots decently fast. It shoots faster than the S12, but the damage is not that great. It's good enough if you're in houses. It is really trolly, but it's probably the worst shotgun. For the classes, for the Remington, you go with long barrel, you go with laser sight, long barrel to help the range be even more annoying, and the laser sight so you don't even have to aim down sight. I mean, you could use quick draw, but I have never actually seen anyone seriously use it. I've seen people use MMS just because it's annoying that you can see campers through walls, but that's just pure troll factor. S12, fast max 100%, and probably long barrel just to help it out a little bit more. Although most often when I play this, I only have the fast max and I have the secondary. Now, the KSG, I would probably go with the reflex sight and a quick draw. You want to aim, you want to be precise, that's why you use something that is very clean. Okay. And use the quick draw to aim down sight really fast. And yeah, it's probably the best way to set it up like this. You could of course do something with mags. It's like really not necessary. You could do long barrel, but the range is already really good. I don't know why you would use a suppressor, but I guess you could. That's just the best way. With the M1216, I would definitely use the fast mags. And for this, you could use the long barrel to get a little bit more effective range out of it. Or you go full troll mode and use the suppressor and the like ghost, cold-blooded, that sounds, you know, that type of build. Because usually when people see you and you don't see them first, you're gonna have a bad time. So why not go full troll? Alright, up to the I will get to the secondaries. So it's just light machine guns and sniper rifles left, and riot shield, but riot shield. For the LMGs, this is the one shoots slow, has a really long range, is very consistent, high damage. It's basically like the Scar Age, but in really slow, but with more range. That's kind of how you could put it. It's a decent choice, but not the best one by far. It's more like the average. The QBB is shooting really fast, but has lower damage in return. Usually this is considered to be the worst LMG, and it is. So you can use it. It is decent enough to get kills out of it, but if you really want to be effective, this is not the one. The LZ, that's the Jack of all trades LMG, as it also says here, versatile and strong overall. It shoots faster than the MK, about as fast as like the Msmc or PDW would, and only needs 3 bullets to hit. It has a good range, it has good bullet penetration, like everything is pretty good, of course except the mobility and reload speed. And there's not much more to say. It actually keeps up with all of the other good guns in the game. It's actually really viable. And now we get to the hammer, and the hammer is really unique in that it has a similar mechanic to the AN-94, where the first bullets are faster, but it's not the first 2, it's the first 7. And the first 7, they shoot at about 900, and afterwards it drops down to 600. So what that essentially means is you have a gun that needs 3 bullets to kill, has a decent range, and for the first 7 bullets shoots at 900 RPM, which is ridiculously fast. If you can hit your first 7 shots, or just don't get on those super prolonged gunfights, this is probably the best LMG in the game, even though most people never use it. Like, most people would tend to the LZ just of how versatile it is, but I would think the hammer is a lot better. Like, quite a lot better. For the setups, so with the MK, usually you want something like quick draw and stock. You might want to consider having a reflex sight, just because the iron sights are very bulky, but that's pretty much the standard. Same here, quick draw, stock, absolute standard. With the LZ, quick draw, stock. You could use a third attachment, either being FMJ if you're on Nuketon, or being a suppressor on other maps, but this will do just fine. And for the hammer, can you guess it? Correct, quick draw and stock. And you could use a suppressor if you wish to, but I would probably tend to take another perk instead. And this is actually almost overpowered. This is as close as you get. It is still balanced in the way that it's slow. The reload is, compared to assault rifles, pretty slow, but compared to LMGs it's actually fast. And it's just the damage in TTK that's just absolutely crazy. For the sniper rifles, you get a semi-auto that's spammable. Normally needs 2 bullets to hit. I would say it's pretty good. Even though people will probably not have it on a radar, it is kind of trolly, but it's really good. It's like another little pocket FAL that shoots slower, but has more range and has this one shot on the head. DSR and Ballista are the bolt action rifles. This one handles a little bit slower, but has more damage. It one-shots to the head, shoulders, chest, and stomach. Well, this one does not to the stomach, just chest and above. But in return, handles faster. Like ADS is faster, reload is faster, it has 2 more bullets. So if you're into quick scoping, definitely take the ballista. There's absolutely nothing that the DSR would help you with, especially in custom lobbies with reduced health. There's absolutely no reason to not use the ballista. But if you just want consistency as a maybe a secondary, I'll use the DSR. The XPR is semi-auto with the damage pretty much the same as the ballista, so chest up is a one-shot, but the recoil is pretty bad. You could go prone, then the recoil is actually pretty low, but you basically get the mobility of the DSR with the damage of the ballista, and the only thing you get back is not having this bolt action, but the bolt action is completely irrelevant in Black Ops 2, so it's a bad choice. So with the SVU, I would use fast max 100%. Most of the times I would use, something like attack additionally, but if you wanted to, you could probably get away with the ballistic CPU. So with this, the idle sway is a little bit reduced. Not that you need it, you really don't. I would keep it like this and just take something else, or like a C4 or a dildo or tack, The DSR, FMJ fast mag is pretty much the standard. However, if you don't feel like wall banging, I would probably change for the ballistic CPU in case you have the more, let's say, traditional playstyle. If you're quickscoping, of course, it doesn't make sense to have this. If you're quickscoping, take FMJ. But this will probably help quite a bit. Ballista has FMJ and fast max. It is the quickscoping gun, so especially if you play on Nuketon, you want full metal jacket, you want it, and you want the fast max. Don't do me dirty with the extended clips. If I find a gun with that on the ground, I throw it away again. Use fast max, please. Especially if you play 1v1s, the timing that you have for finishing a reload from start to finish with fast max is about correct to hit one spawn trap, reload fully without even cancelling, and hit the next spawn trap. So use fast max. The XPR, you definitely need fast max, and I would probably tend toward ballistic CPU just because it has the most idle sway out of all. Now for riot shield, it's a troll gun. That's it. Okay, now to the secondaries. Since it was already asked in chat, here it is. So you have a little bit of a variety on the pistol side. You have the 5.7 and the Tech 45 that are pretty similar. They both have around the same damage, so you need 2 bullets to hit, which you can also shoot really fast. So it's again like a pocket FAL, just not as fast and with a lot less bullets. The difference being mostly that the 5.7 can theoretically shoot a little bit faster. Not by much, just a little bit. It has more bullets, but it also has a lot less range. So if you're just one of those spam masters, use the 5.7, go ahead. I personally prefer the Tech 45. You just get more range out of it, it's feeling a little bit more consistent, and I found the sound and the feeling of spamming the Tech 45 to be more pleasant than the 5.7. I don't know what it is about the 5.7, I just don't like it. The B23R is a 3-round burst pistol. It shoots a really fast burst, you need to hit 3 bullets to kill up close, and it's very spammable. The recoil is not too bad if you're up close. For range, I would forget it. For range, pretty much the Tech and the 5.7 are the only ones that you could even use. But that being said, you could use the akimbo and delete people. or you could just use a single one and even use it as a primary. Essentially, it's good enough for that. It's very, very solid choice. That's why you will normally see a lot of like snipers or something like that also use this one. You have the Executioner, which is well, the trolley one. It's like a shotgun, but a really bad shotgun. It has incredibly low range. It is pretty spammable, but the damage output is also really slow. The reload is pretty slow. It only has 5 bullets, and you have to put them in individually unless you have fast mags. That's when you do all at once, all the shells at once. Or if you have akimbo, then you get fast mags for free. And there are some situations when it's actually good, like up close. It is actually really, really strong. And I have a class where I unironically use it. Although the unironically is still attached with a little bit of trolliness. The Cap 40 is the full auto one. And I mean, it shoots decently fast. The damage output is decent enough to keep up with some of the SMGs. So it could probably keep up with like MP7 and the Vector. However, it just has so few bullets that it's normally not worth it. You could use it, of course, but you will not get much out of it. I think you're better off with the other secondaries. But if you want something for pure backup and you want it to be full automatic for whatever reason, this could actually be a decent choice. So, since you only get one attachment, if you even use one, so for the 5.7, you don't need any attachments, but if you so wish to, I would maybe go for a knife if you're really about it up close, or just use something like FMJ, long barrel. I mean, the other choices, it's really poor. I mean, you could use a suppressor, it's also fine. You're not gonna hurt it too much. It's gonna be hurt by a percentage, so it's not too bad. Take 45, extended clip, 100%. So you go from 10 rounds to 13, and that means 1.5 more potential kills in there. You just need a little bit more of the ammo, especially with how spammable it is, even though you don't need a ton just because of how good the damage is. So I would go with the extended clip. With the B23R, I would probably go with the extended clip too, just because of how spammy it is, and it normally comes with 15 rounds if I'm not mistaken. So why not make it more? You could also use the suppressor, it's fine, or if you're really fancy, suppressor and extended clip if you use it as a primary. But yeah, that's up to you. Executioner, if I were to use it, I probably don't have any attachments on it again, but if I had to, I would use the fast mags just to make the reload less painful. So you don't have to put each individual shell in, but just put all at once and are done with it. With a Cap 40, extended clip is a must. No matter if it's just backup or like run as a primary for whatever reason you would ever, I can't imagine. Extended clip is the way to go. Okay, so now we already have gone for the best secondaries. So I would personally put a Tech 45 as number 1. And the B23R as a close number 2. With the 5.7 coming very close after that. But I would put this number 1, number 2, number 3, and then I would probably put the Executioner above the Cap 40. I mean, they're both not great. Pretty much trash considered that we have those choices. But with the Executioner, you can get those cheeky one-shots up close. You can get those like really trolly kind of kills. While the Cap 40 is just like having an average SMG with a third of the magazine in your hands. Like, nah. Okay, with the Secondaries, I mean, small. An RPG can be fired freely without any lock-on. So between those, RPG is a little bit more common. You get more rockets with the RPG. The damage is not that different. The small is a little bit more accurate, but that's about it. FHJ is only lock-on, so if you want something to shoot down UAVs, go for this one. I mean, the small, you can use it to shoot down UAVs too, but you only get 2 rockets in total, so 1 loaded, 1 reserve. It's not that great, really. So if you want to troll people, RPG, it only works when people don't have Flak Jacket. Once they use Flak Jacket, you can toss this one away. And I'm speaking of experience from back in the days. I had a class where I was running RPG only, and sometimes when I got into a lobby for the first time and I would just pull this out, I could actually get really good streaks, get V sets. I even got a nuke with RPG only, which sounds ridiculous, but it's possible. But the moment that this lobby, like this match, ends and people create a class, they will just put on Flak Jacket, and if they have Flak Jacket, either you direct hit them or you need like 3 rockets to kill them. Then you can forget it. Then it's just useless. Okay, now for the specials, you have the Crossbow, you have the Ballistic Knife, neither of which is like really viable. However, the Ballistic Knife has one unique thing about it. That is, the Ballistic Knife has a higher movement speed than the regular combat knife. Meaning, like the combat knife gives you more sprint range, so you get about twice the sprint, like extreme conditioning for free. But the ballistic knife gives you lightweight for free. But only while the gun is out, right? Not on your primary. Only with the knife out. So if you just want a gun to move fast and don't care that like the sprint is just as short as with any other regular gun, then this is the way to move the fastest in a game. With the crossbow, you get 3 bolts. You could choose them all at the same time. I would not advise it. Actually, none of the options are really good, really. I mean, you could use a zoom and like quick scope of the crossbow. It's stupid, but I can't think of any single scenario where you're actually gonna be serious about using it. With the ballistic knife, there are no attachments, obviously, but they're sweet camos. So now we've gone through all of the weapons, which means we're going to move on to the perks. So for perk 1, and now it's not a new card, Saleh. It is the card that released 10 years ago, or like 9 years ago technically, in 2012. So it's the 9th part of Call of Duty. It was released after Modern Warfare 3, and it was released before Call of Duty Ghosts. So it was one of the last one that was on old gen only. So only PS3, only Xbox 360. Since I'm assuming if you played it, you probably played it on console. On PC, it was kind of dead on arrival, as with pretty much all CODs back then before they introduced the crossplay. Okay, so you have lightweight. It's moving faster by about 7%, which is quite an increase. and you take no fall damage. So you can dolphin dive from any height, you will not die. It can be useful. However, it's also limited in its usefulness just because of the other perks. So standalone, it's a really, really good perk. Of course, it should be. But for the most part, I would only advise it if you don't have any other choice for a second perk 1 other than this. Or maybe for like S&D or modes like this where you want to push those meeting points and come from unexpected angles that you can't otherwise reach. So lightweight and extreme conditioning with a combat knife and just running through the map, you know, something like that. Hardline earns score streaks faster. It can, like, if you're a good player, this is probably one of the best perks in the game. At least for perk 1, it might be either the best or second best, depending on how you put your priorities. So normally for a V set, you would need 1200 score to reach it. With Hardline, you need about 1050. And on its own, it might not sound like a huge change. So 1-2 kills less, wow, what a change. However, the streaks, they cycle here. So that means after you earned your last streak, you can earn your streaks again within the same life. So if you want to keep a VSET constantly up in the air, you'll benefit highly from this perk. And the better you are, the higher the streaks you usually get are, the better this perk gets. So if you're really new to the game and not very strong player, it's probably not that useful, and lightweight would be better. However, if you're good at the game, Hardline is a very, very good choice. Blind Eye, undetectable by AI controlled air support. No, don't. Flak Jacket, take less explosive damage. This is actually a really, really good perk, and it would be the contender for best perk in here as well. And what makes the difference, however, between like this and Hardline is that Flak Jacket is always good. No matter how good, how bad you are, no matter what situation, no matter which game mode, it's always good. Explosives can be really annoying in here, especially like with the bouncing batteries, the claymores, the C4s, like even streaks, RPG, anything like that. With Flak Jacket, you reduce the damage significantly. So while without it you would have died to like one hit of the explosive, with this you can probably take the explosive and a bullet on top. So it's very, very strong in this game. Better than EOD in Warzone or Modern Warfare 2019 for that matter. So just to have like some kind of reference if you played the newer CODs. Ghost cannot be detected by enemy UAVs while moving, planting or defusing bombs, or while controlling score streaks. So that means as long as you're not camping, you will not show up on the UAV. In principle, it is good. However, I would probably say it's better for bad players to just get those cheeky kills where someone like focused on the UAV to see where the spawns are, where the enemies are, and you just come up from behind out of nowhere and just like poof. Other than that, it's not worth it over the others. It's not that Ghost is bad, it's just that Flak Jacket and Hardline will be more useful in most scenarios. Okay, so for perk 2, you have Toughness, which is flinchless when shot. This is a perk that they removed in newer CODs. I'm not sure if it's in Ghost, but at the very least, ever since Black Ops 3, they just never brought it back because everyone was using it. It is pretty much a crutch perk if you're going into gunfights. If you have a gun that you don't want to get into gunfights with, like a sniper maybe, or a shotgun, like we don't expect to be shot back at, then you could go without, but otherwise I would always take it. Cold-blooded, resistant to targeting systems including dual band, target finder, sensor grenade, MMS, and player-controlled aircraft. No name or red crosshair when targeted. This is the stealthy perk in here, and well, as it says, like basically it removes all signs of you existing to the assisted kind of systems. So on the thermal, you're not showing up highlighted. If you go over the name, it will not stick and it will not show. As far as I know, it actually removes the aim assist of controller players on you. So it can be useful in that regard, even though I don't think it's that big of a deal. But if you really care about it, maybe it's for you. And for SMD, it can be useful. I mean, there are some people who spam a smoke grenade in front of their feet and just look through with the thermals, wait for someone to come through a door. There are people like that out there, as sad as it is. You can avoid those with this one. Or if someone's passing by and suddenly they just noticed, oh, there was a red name, let me check that out. You will just remove it with this one. So if you want to go for ninja diffuses, for example, or just hide in a bush and just wait for your moment, then this is actually a decent. Fast hands, swap weapons faster and use equipment faster. Reset the fuse when throwing back frag grenades. The last part is irrelevant. When will you ever throw back a grenade? Like, you have flak jacket, you just take it like a man. That's it. Or you run away like a girl. But swapping weapons, it can be good if you play overkill. So meaning if you have the Msmc overkill DSR or something like that, you would probably use fast hands just to switch fast between them. And alternatively, if you're playing with snipers, like sniper only lobbies, it might be decent to also have it so that you can switch between a knife and the sniper faster to like move around the map. I'm also used to the timing of switching the guns if I'm doing a dolphin dive tomahawk thing, but that's just like looks funny. It's not actually useful. It's not great. It's a very limited use. Hardwired is immune to counter UAV and EMP. So the only usefulness of this is, well, if someone throws EMP grenades, you just avoid it. Or if you have this kind of curse on you that every single time you use a VSAT, someone brings out an EMP or EMP grenades or a counter UAV, you could circumvent it with this. However, Scavenger and Toughness are usually better because Scavenger replenishes your ammo and equipment from enemies killed. So you will see those little packs down here on the ground. They are pretty big, very easy to see. And once you go over them, you get 1 magazine worth of ammo back and whatever grenade or you have, right? So if you have C4s, you actually regenerate your C4s for this. Please don't throw C4s. And Flex Mafia. Black Ops 2 does have players, yes. Let me show you. So you can go here. I've filtered out based on ping, and I'm not showing empty or full servers. And you can see you could go for a gun game on Aftermath with 15 other players. You could go on Plaza with 14. You have all those options. You can go for trick shots, you can go for TDM domination, gun game, search and destroy. Like with snipers, there's also one search and destroy without snipers, like normal, like with this one right here. Right now, it's only 4 players. Like, it can be tough sometimes and depends on your region a little bit. But if I, let's say, put it to all, like 1000 ping, you will see there are regions that are away from me, like Latin America, that are also kind of active, in Argentina. So you can definitely find matches. The only problem being that sometimes you cannot find what you want. But other than that, it's good to play. Just get plutonium. If you're using the actual base game, like the regular Black Ops 2, and just hit search, like a find match, you can only play TDM, and you will probably find 1 or 2 lobbies at best. But it's possible. Okay, let's just continue with Perk 3. With Perk 3, you have Dexterity, which is aim faster after sprinting, and Mantle and Climb faster. So aim faster after sprinting is the sprint out time. So when you're sprinting, it takes a little bit of time to get your gun back up and be ready to shoot. This reduces it drastically. So if you're playing aggressive, this is a very, very good choice. The climbing faster like also applies to climbing up ladders or just mantling. It's not as important, but you will notice when you're used to having the dexterity and you don't have it suddenly anymore, it just feels like it takes ages to get up anywhere. But the most useful part is actually this sprint out, which means you can sprint across the map without any care and still react to people like by like jumping and turning on them or whatever. While without dexterity, you would have this kind of delay and would need to pre-aim a lot more. Extreme conditioning just doubles your sprint duration. It's useful in S&D. Anywhere else, capture the flag, maybe. Otherwise, if you're playing TDM or so, I would not use it. Engineer shows the equipment for walls, and it also delays the detonation of claymores and bouncing betties, which is not that useful. I mean, flak jacket for the most part takes care of everything. However, if people camp with like riot shields and all the trophies and whatnot, and shotgun in a room on hijacked, we all know probably who we mean. Then this actually shows everything through the walls. Like you can see a planted riot shield through walls, and you could just pull out an LZ with FMJ and just spray them through the wall. It also can reroll and booby trap care packages. I'm not sure why you would use care packages, but it basically doubles your chances of getting anything useful. Well, if you use care packages, I probably would use it, but I would not recommend care packages to begin with. Now, Tactical Mask is another really, really good perk in here. So it reduces the effects of flashbangs, concussion grenades, and shock charges, and it basically reduces those effects to close to 0. So if you're stunned, you have this very slow, like half a second reduction in your speed, and you're good to go again. If you have a flashbang, you just see, poof, hey, there was something white. What was that? If you have a shock charge, you just hear the noise around you, and nothing happens. If you have a spare slot, this is definitely a top tier perk. So, Dead Silence and Awareness are very similar. Dead Silence removes your footstep noises for the most part, and it also removes the shoutouts that your soldier does, so like reloading, and awareness makes them hearable again. So awareness boosts the volume of the footsteps and stuff like that. So if you're going to use only one, I would use Dead Silence probably, just to make yourself silent. And well, awareness is mostly used as a counter to Dead Silence. On its own, it will make footsteps really loud, like Modern Warfare 2019 loud, but in the end you will be loud as well still. And if you use Dead Silence and awareness at the same time, which some people do in S&D, you don't have Tactical Mask and you don't have Dexterity. You didn't even have the choice, so it's just a tough choice between those. However, I personally would tend to use Dexterity and Tactical Mask first in most scenarios, unless it's competitive or S&D, where I would use Dead Silence together with Dexterity. Now to the lethal grenades. You have the actual grenades, those two. You have the more plantable thingies, and you have the combat axe. So with those two, you have the grenade, where you pull out the pin, you wait a certain amount of seconds until it detonates, you can throw it pretty far, it bounces around, while the Semtex, you throw it, it sticks to wherever it lands, and explodes after that. So overall the grenade does a little bit more damage, I think, but it can be thrown back, but they really don't take much from each other. Overall the Semtex is probably the more useful one. Especially with the option, or like if you have a lot of luck, to stack someone. So even if they have flak jacket, they just die. Well, with the grenade, that's pretty much impossible. Like even if you direct hit them and it explodes, they can still like survive it. The combat axe, it's mostly just a fun piece. You can throw it pretty far distances. It kills on impact every single time, so even if it just hits your little toe, you'll still fall dead. And most of the times you use it either to mess around or to like throw it across the map and just hope it hits, which on some maps is actually pretty likely. Like on Hijack, it's super easy to throw them across the map and hit someone. I had one clip on a stream a couple days ago or a week ago, I'm not sure, where I threw 2 axes across the map and both just hit someone. So it's just fun value, but not actually like as useful as the Semtex would be if you're being serious. Bouncing Betty and a Claymore are very similar in the way that you put them down, someone walks by, they explode. The Bouncing Betty goes up and has a certain radius that it explodes to. You can just dodge it by crouching or going prone and completely avoid any damage whatsoever. They also make a sound while going up to give the players a clue that this is happening, and it's very easy to dodge if you're expecting it, or if you have decent reaction. However, you can also be a little bit cheesy and put it at places that are slightly lower in elevation than where people likely go, so that if they crouch, they still get hit and die. Like stairs would be one example, or if there's a change from one room to another where there's a little bit of a height difference, no matter how small it is, it will be enough. Yeah. The Claymore is just directional, so whichever side they're coming from, they just get this explosion in their face. And for most purposes, if you want to be effective, I think the Claymore is better. But if you're just being a little bit trolly and just want to annoy people, the Bouncing Betty is better. But overall, C4, you can throw the C4 kind of far. You can just double tap explode it. It does a ton of damage. So if someone is hit in a gunfight and you just throw it, they die. If they don't have flak jacket, they die. It's the best grenade or like lethal by far. In competitive, those three were of course banned. Like anything that you just put down and does something for you is banned. So overall, C4 would be best, however. And I used to play on PS3, but right now this is on Plutonium. So this is a PC version where you can get Black Ops 2 for free. If you don't own it on PC already via Steam or whatever, you can get a torrent file with Black Ops 2 and all the DLCs from their website, and you can play it through their launcher, which has dedicated servers and things like that. But in the past, I used to play on PlayStation 3, yes. Okay, now to the tacticals. So you have the concussion, which is the normal stun grenade. It limits the movement. It basically prevents people from aiming, moving, doing anything. It cancels almost anything they do, which is really annoying. Like, this is the douchebag one. If they don't have tactical mask, this is a free kill. If they have tactical mask, this piece is just useless. Smoke grenade is always useless. It's just annoying. Most people probably don't even know how to really use it anyway. And it's not like you get any tactical value out of smokes like in CSGO. You put down a smoke, like, people normally don't care. Like, it's easy enough to spam through it to get kills. It's easy enough to push out of it and still win a gunfight coming out of the smoke. Like, there's no good reason to use it. Then we have the Pokeballs. When you throw them, it just detects people in the vicinity of the grenade with a direct line of sight and marks them on your minimap, which will look similar to a VSAT, but not be like that completely real time. It has a little bit of delays in it. So overall, it can be good, maybe, in certain situations where you just want to know where someone is, but I mean, you could also use something like the EMP grenade, which does it better, but only gives a hit mark instead of the minimap clues. And it can't really be countered in the sense that you get the hit mark no matter what, but this is not detected if they have cold-blooded. Shock charge is like having a stun planted in a place. It makes those electric noises. If someone walks into it, they just have this just shocked in place. It's really annoying. If they have tactical mask, they do absolutely nothing other than give you a hit marker and tell you, hey yo, there is someone. So yeah. Black Hat is used to hack equipments or take care packages, disable stuff. So you can use it to steal a shock charge, steal a claymore, steal a C4 mid-air. You can do all of those kind of things. You can point it at the UAV and destroy it with that as well, but it takes quite a while. Which would also work with other stuff like a Vtol or Lodestar. You can point at it with a Black Hat, even through walls you can do it, and it will eventually destroy it. However, with those bigger streaks you need more than just one, obviously. So you would need multiple people to do it, or you just have to kill yourself and do it again, which probably is not worth it because by then it's already gone. It's also used often by people who want to hide. So if you're going to play like hide and seek, you probably take out a Black Hat and just camp with it to remove like the guns and things like that, and just have your character be a little bit smaller. It looks like you're using a phone basically from the third person. Flashbang does exactly what you think it does. However, if you had a choice, I would probably go with a concussion over the flashbang if you're going for effectiveness or douchebagginess, whichever it is that pleases you. their screen turns white for a couple of seconds. It's pretty annoying. And yeah, the EMP grenades, I think I skipped this one. EMP grenade, you can throw it, and it has a certain radius regardless of what's in the way, like walls or cover or anything. It just hits in a certain radius and EMPs people, which means their HUD is removed. They can't see how much ammo they have. They can't see their minimap. They can't see anything like the score, the kill feed, everything removed. It's like sending them into hardcore mode essentially, by everything except health. And it gives you this hit marker when it hits. So if you throw it somewhere and it hits, you know for a fact somewhere is in that vicinity. So it's useful for that as well. For the most part, this is really, really trolly, just because it's very easy to hit people with that. It's really annoying. It prevents them from using streaks or using the streaks. It destroys streaks as well, by the way. I think there are a couple spots where you could theoretically destroy a UAV with this thing, which is really, really stupid. But if you just throw it up, it's not gonna happen. There are just certain spots where it's somehow possible for whatever reason. But if they have something like a Sentry Gun, it destroys after, I think, even one grenade, which is really sad. You have a trophy, which basically protects from projectiles. Like if you throw a grenade, it's going to be destroyed by the trophy. If a streak comes, that's like a Hellstorm missile, the trophy would destroy it unless you split it before. Then it can't destroy all of them. And if someone is between the projectile and the trophy, it actually damages opponents. So you can get a kill like that. It's just not very likely. You have a tactical insertion, which you put down. You just press a couple buttons, put it on the ground, and whoopsie-doops, next time you die, you have the choice between spawning regularly or spawning where you put this. They are marked, however, for people, so there's this red light beacon going up so that people can see it when they walk by or in general. They can spot it like this, and depending on how funny they're feeling, they might either just destroy it or they might just sit behind it and wait for you to spawn and just give you the knife. So it's not the worst, not the best. It can be really, really annoying, but if people are abusing those and just like playing like sniper only, quick scope, putting tactical insertion everywhere, just annoying you, like there's your solution. This. They also destroy if you hit it with anything else, like if you deal damage to it. But EMP is just the easiest. Okay, now we're done with everything that is in the class itself, which means we can go on to the score streaks. So let's just remove everything. So the UAV, it shows the enemies that do not have ghost or that do have ghost but don't move and don't do anything on the minimap in certain intervals. I would consider this a good streak just because even if it's not necessarily foolproof for the individual enemy, it will show you the tendencies. It will show you which kind of spawns they have, which kind of areas they're sitting in. And with that, they allow you to make better decisions. The Rcxd is this little car that you can control yourself. You can ride around with it and explode it. There are some tracks outside the map, like on Nuketon, for example, where there's this little hole in the fence, and there's this little ramp that you can drive up with. Like, there are some fun things you can do with it, but most of the times it's not good, it's not effective, it's just funny. The Hunter Killer is an insult of a streak. You earn it, you throw it out, it just looks for any person that's up in, like, over in the air, like available outside on the fresh air, and just hits them. It kills people even if they have flak jacket, it deals enough damage. It's just, you throw, you forget, you get 1, 2, 3 kills, that's it. Not exciting, not too useful. It's mostly just annoying for the enemies, really. The care package is, well, most of the times it's an RC or a UAV if you're lucky, but it can contain something really, really big if you have luck. So if you have hard times earning those bigger ones, you might just take care package and have some fun occasionally. Like once in a while you will end up getting one of those. So if you're a weak player, go for it. It's fun. Especially if you actually get a kill with the care package because it falls on top of an enemy. That's always really funny. You just have to take care that you spawn it into a place where it's safe. Because it takes some time to come down. You have some time that it needs to take. You can take it with a black hat remotely, so you can throw it outside a map where people cannot reach it, and just point your black hat at it and take it like this. Or drop it on a rooftop, for example, and take it with a black hat. Maybe this is even the recommended way to get those. So that way you can be 100% sure that even if you die, like, nobody steals it. Okay, now you have the counter UAV. It just disables the UAV for the enemies, unless they have hardwired, which they don't. Overall, it's pretty good. It can be shot down, of course, but it denies enemies of any information that they can take from the minimap. It blocks out a VSAT if they have one. It's easy to reach. It gives you those assists with each kill that your teammates do. Same with the UAV. It's a good map. It's a good streak. Then you have the Guardian. The Guardian is some kind of dish that you place, and it sends out those microwave radiation thingies that just fries people. So if you walk into it, you just get those kind of stun-like effect, where it damages them over time, and they move slower, they can't see properly, they can't move properly, like, it's just annoying. It's usually just, you can block spawns with it. If you place it inside a spawn, they're not going to spawn into it, obviously. Or you can use it to block off certain entries. So if you were to camp, for example, in Hijacked on the top floor of this one house that only has those 2 entries, you could place it to block off one of the entries and camp the other. That's how it's normally used. It's not always used by campers, really. Or you can troll people and follow them with the Guardian and just place it every single time. Once they get out, you just pick it up, place it again until they die. The Hellstorm missile. You get the missile coming in. You can control where it goes. You can make it boost so it comes down faster. You can split it so the explosion just spreads out. And overall, it's decent. You can basically get 1 to 3 controlled kills like that. On Nuketon, maybe even more if they're in the process of spawning in the open. Lightning Strike, similar kind of thing. You can get some controlled kills. So you just put it into places where people camp, where you don't want to go, or in the spawn, and it comes down pretty fast. Like, you get the notification and it's already there. Or sometimes you just get hit and then you get a notification, lightning strike incoming. So for ending streaks, it's pretty good, like of the enemies, or just cleaning it up on Nuketon. So you get those people out of mid, you get out of the spawn trap. For those purposes, it's pretty good. The Sentry Gun, if people don't play EMP, this is probably one of the best streaks to use. Not the best, but one of the best. You can place it, and it basically has a certain radius within which it just like kills people. It just like rotates side to side, and if someone comes into this little cone, it just locks onto him and shoots at him. The damage is not that great. It shoots pretty fast, but the damage is not that great. It doesn't track them through walls for very long, but it does. So if you are, for example, at a window, you're being seen by the sentry, and you just move behind the wall on one side, it will follow you for a little bit and might still get you. So careful if you see a sentry. Know that this is the case. You can also manually take over and just shoot through walls in the spawn trap indefinitely until people destroy it, which is something you can do in Nuketon. You can place it in one of the houses so that it has the correct placement to hit the spawn, and you just spam it through walls. Actually, let me do that later on. Let me do that. Actually, it was always funny to do that. Okay. But if people come from behind, of course, it's a goner. So normally you can place, I think, 3 sentries and guardians combined. So it could be like 2 sentries, 1 guardian, only 3 sentries, no guardian, 2 guardians, 1 sentry. You get the idea. Anything you place afterwards just destroys one of the previous ones. So you could use a sentry to block off one of the spawns on Nuketon, and then you use another sentry to spawn trap the other one. Death Machine, it's been in other games too. It's not that good. It really isn't. It shoots fast. It is really, really slow. It needs some time to spin up. It's not good. Don't use it. The War Machine is a little grenade launcher with 6 grenade shells in it at once, and another 6 in reserve. If they don't have flak jacket, it kills them really fast. If they do have flak jacket, you might need like 3 hits. However, each explosion stuns them a little bit, so if you hit someone, you just continue to spam and they still die, but you're gonna waste a lot of the ammo. Overall, if you want something that you can manually control, it is decent. Like, it's kind of easy to reach, it's effective enough, but there are better options. The Dragonfire is one of the default streaks that you will have when you just start out. So you will have UAV, care package, and Dragonfire. It's this little drone that you control manually that can also shoot. It's very easy to shoot down. It has very little health. However, what you can do, you can adjust like the height, so go up, down, side to side, forward, backwards. You can be pretty mobile with it. The damage output of it is not very great, but if you're good at avoiding being hit, it can actually be a decent streak. Like, you can actually get quite a lot of kills with it. But that's really only if you're able to avoid those things. You can just fly it into places where people don't expect it, like just getting in through like some windows and doors and get people inside, or something like that. The AGR is basically like the Dragonfire, but ground-based and with a lot more health. You have some explosives. You can shoot with this kind of minigun again on it. It moves really, really slow. And EMP grenades, well, it still kill it really fast. You need 2 EMP grenades to kill it. So that's a little bit of a downside. But it can be really fun. And the most fun about this is there is a little bit of a bug that if you come from a higher elevation and you dolphin dive over the AGR of your own team, that is. It could be of the enemy too, but usually you would do it with your own team. And you hit it with your legs. So you would actually push the AGR down below the map, and it would bounce back up and fly into the air. I have a clip on my channel. I think it's probably called something like AGR glitch abuse or something around this kind of name, where we actually did it in a public match. So I was jumping over the AGR, it flew up in the air like it was on raid, and it went from the basketball court all above, so you could see the back entry of kitchen and just shoot some missiles and actually kill someone. It's really, really fun to do that. It's really, really fun. But of course, in overall effectiveness, it's not that great. It's just really fun. The stealth chopper is one of those, you call it in, you forget. It's good for that. However, it doesn't have this huge potential. So you will usually call it in, it gets a couple kills for you, it does a little bit, but it's not very exciting. The VSET is easily the best streak in the game. You see every single enemy, everyone, no matter if they have ghost or what they're doing, what they're having. You just see them with direction and real-time location through the entire map. So it's basically like having wall hacks against them. You can always be sure where they're coming from, where they're looking, if they're aware of you, if they're looking for you, if they're camping. You know everything if you have this thing up. It lasts kind of long. I think it's 45 seconds. So it can be enough time to earn another one if you're good and if your alpha streak isn't very high. The Escort Drone, kind of similar to a stealth chopper, probably in effectiveness. You call it in, it follows you around the map, it tells everyone where you are, but it's actually good at killing whoever comes near it. So it can be decent. It's kind of fun, but not a lot of fun. EMP systems, it destroys all the electronics like an EMP grenade would, but it one hits everything, unlike the EMP grenade, and also destroys all the equipment, like all the streaks, everything they have, it just gets destroyed, and the effect after that is as if they were hit by an EMP grenade, so they can't call in any kill streaks. So normally you could pair it with the VSET, so that when you earn the VSET, even if someone has a counter UAV, which is easy to reach, I mean 600 score, come on, you just pull out the EMP system and remove it. So that's one way you can play. And I think most of the times back on PlayStation 3 when I was active in Black Ops 2, and Black Ops 2 was more or less the main COD to actually be played, I would actually use it like this, like EMP, VSET, and UAV. The other setup that I would use was UAV, Sentry, and VSET. The Warthog, it's the worst streak in the game, bar none. It's worse than the Hunter Killer, it's worse than the Rcxd. I kid you not, it's the worst. You need 1400 score, so 14 kills if you don't have assists, or normally probably like 12 kills, give or take. Domination, it would be a little bit less, yeah, but you get what I mean. And in return, you get less than 1 kill on average per Warthog. It just comes on a map, it just shakes everything up, and everyone is just like getting this kind of stun effect thingy. You as well, by the way. And that's it. Like, why would you do this? There's no reason to use this. It's really, really bad. The Lodestar, so you have those missiles and rockets that you're shooting down from the Lodestar, and you can laser guide them. So you can actually hit quite a lot of spots with some skill. So you can shoot inside of windows to get inside of rooms and stuff like that, for example, if you can time it correctly and control it correctly. Of course, it's better when people do not have a flak jacket, because flak jacket will actually save you quite a few times from this. But overall, it's still a pretty good streak. It's fun to use, definitely. And you can go for it. The Vtol is mostly a streak where you're shooting down. You also get those missile barrages that you have to load up, though. And you can change your position with the L2 button. I'm not sure what it is on the other ones. On like Xbox, it's probably like the left button, I think, if you haven't flipped it back. On PC, I have no idea what it is. And, well, it can take quite a bit. It's actually good at killing things. It's probably more effective at killing than a Lodestar. But I think the Lodestar might be more fun. Okay, then we go to the K9 unit. It's just those pack of attack dogs. And those attack dogs, they kill in one hit. So you get this kind of fun out of it. You spawn in a bunch of them. On some maps you can actually see where they're coming from. Like on Hijacked, way back in the spawn, there are those little box thingies. And you can actually see them come out. And you could theoretically camp there and just knife them as they come. Just a trick if you get K9 unit. Yeah. They have a downside. They don't like water. So if you go into any large body of water that you can actually enter, like on Raid, this little pool, they cannot get to you. They're a really good streak, however. If someone just spawns in, it's really hard to like really get those things off of you while not also being killed by other people. So you basically have the situation of pick your poison. Either you're gonna shoot enemies that come up to you, or you're gonna shoot the dogs and survive and then be shot by someone else because you're out of ammo. And for the very last streak, you have the Swarm, which is just a bunch of hunter-killer drones at once. It can be really good in the sense that you cannot really escape from it that easily. You can get inside a house and just camp somewhere where they can't see you, obviously, but if you go up to a window, you'll also already hear this do-do-do-do-do, and one will just come flying your way. But they also have the tendency to kill you as a user, because of course whoever called it in can also take damage from them. This is true for basically any streak, with the exception of maybe the K9 unit. I don't think this can actually hit you at all. And well, if you're actually actively running around, it will probably kill you quite a lot of times. And normally people tend to just camp in houses until it's over. So I don't think it's effective enough to warrant 1900 score required. I don't think it's worth it. The only reason that it might be worth it is just to get the calling cards, get the flags out. That's basically it. So for my next games, I would take the UAV, the Sentry, and the VSAT. So the UAV is just a basic one to tell the spawns, to know where people are at, to basically further your own streak. The VSAT is almost the same, just taken to an extreme. So I know exactly where people are. I basically cannot die from any fair gunfights. It's just not possible while you have a VSAT up. And the Sentry, I will probably use this like once to control the spawn on one side, and use a second one to just spawn trap some people. So yeah, this would be all of the streaks, all of the classes, all guns, everything. So just to give you some example class setups that I would use. So this is the standard one: Scar H, Suppressor, Stock, as I mentioned in the very beginning. You have the Flak Jacket and Hardline. So Flak Jacket to avoid all explosive damages, and Hardline to get V-sets out faster and get multiple V-sets in one life pretty easily. You have Toughness for the gunfights, and you have Scavenger to replenish your own ammo. On the Scar H, depending on which lobby you're in, you can get away without Scavenger. If you run over the same gun that you were using, you will also take up their ammo. And the way that works is, if it's the same gun but not the same setup, it will take all the ammo that was in reserve. If it was also the same setup, it will also take the ammo from their magazine. So just be aware of that. And Dexterity, that's to play aggressive. So you can sprint aggressively, you can climb fast, and I'm kind of used to playing it. It's a little bit of crutch for me, especially because I tend to sprint, like sprint to jump a lot or something like that. The Msmc, same sort of setup. Here I have the Msmc with the quick draw and the extended clip, the same as the recommended earlier. Exactly the same perks. Like, those are the perks that I use if I'm going for like TDM or Domination or anything like that. Here is a little bit of a different thing. So here's the A94 with the stock. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you don't necessarily need anything more than the stock. The stock is what's very important. And I use it with an Executioner as secondary. So very close up, I just have a good backup that's for one annoying and is actually useful when you're like pushing inside a house or a place like that. And here, instead of Dexterity, I have Tactical Mask. That is because with this kind of setup, I'm kind of assuming that I won't be playing that hyper-aggressive playstyle, but I will take the AN94 for pre-aiming mid to long range, and I have the Executioner for those really short ranges where you don't really have to worry about sprints too much, and you probably want to pre-aim anyway. Here is my Scar H Nuketon class. It has Flak Jacket, Toughness, Scavenger, Dexterity. However, Dexterity can definitely be changed for Tactical Mask, and I do have it like that on this side, on this class set. However, the attachments are a little bit different, and actually got this one wrong, my bad. So FMJ to get more damage for walls. I have the fast mags to reload faster and minimize my own downtime, and I have the stock just to move and strafe really fast. Like, without the stock, it feels like it's just standing in place. With the stock, you can actually pre-aim around corners, you can be mobile instead of gunfights, dodge bullets. Without it, you can't. Here's a kind of typical sniper setup. FMJ with fast mags, which is pretty normal. Perk 1, I use Flak Jacket, not because I'm afraid of explosions or anything like that. It's just that I, with snipers in particular, do not like lightweight. If you're feeling good with lightweight, go for it. However, lightweight messes a little bit with my aim, just because I'm not used to this faster movement, so I tend to miss a lot more when I use it. Back when I was playing 1v1s, you don't need lightweight. When you use the sniper, you can do all spawn traps without, you can get to all the places without, you don't ever need it. And if you don't use it, it's easier to get the lineup correctly, because you just have this slower speed with the finer control. So I'm used to playing without, but you can definitely swap it for lightweight and it would work just fine. Then I have Scavenger and Fast Hands. Fast Hands is just because I'm used to the swap speed between those two, but it's not necessary. Also, when climbing, you get the gun out a little bit faster, which can be useful in some cases. And it's not like you're missing out on anything else, really. Scavenger is just to get more ammo back. Again, not really needed, it's just there. Dexterity to have faster sprint out, to climb faster, be a little bit more mobile, pretty much standard. And Dead Silence is if it doesn't have a map constantly on, it's probably a good idea to have your footsteps a little bit quieter. Especially if you're playing S&D snipers, I would definitely use Dead Silence. Alternatively, you could of course do something like that Sense Awareness. It's not like you're really missing out either without Dexterity. It's just the way I prefer it. And lastly, this is one S&D class that I have with the AN94. So I have the Quick Draw and the Stock. So the Quick Draw, it just gives me a little bit more opportunity up close to like be ready, get into their face. For the perks, I have Flak Jacket and Lightweight. So lightweight just to get around a little bit quicker and be a little bit more mobile in gunfights as well. I mean, your stray speed, everything is also a little bit increased by lightweight, just because it's going by a percentage. And Flak Jacket to avoid all those grenades, especially like the Claymores, because the Claymores, they don't disappear when you die, they disappear with the next round. So just keep that in mind as well, if you're playing S&D. Toughness, just for the gunfights. No second perk 2, so I am not going to use Scavenger just because the rounds are short enough that I don't have to worry about any ammo problems whatsoever. And I'm not using Cold-Blooded, not because it's bad or anything, but I think for myself personally, Lightweight will probably give me more benefits than Cold-Blooded. For perk 3, I'm using Dexterity, again to be a little bit more mobile, can be a little bit more aggressive. I can climb up places really fast and surprise them from odd angles, or I can just sprint around and start react to people. And I'm using Dead Silence to avoid being hurt all the time. There will be people playing Dead Silence and Awareness, but in those cases you have Dexterity, so you can get the jump on them. If they sprint, you probably will win the gunfight. So you can kind of keep that in mind. On this side, I have similar classes again, just minus the S&D, like I have no S&D class here, and a little bit more variety. Here with the M8, the same class I recommended earlier, same perks that I recommend in general. And here, you can definitely go here and swap it for Tactical Mask. This would be the setup, like perk setup that one of my really good friends used, and he's probably twice as good as me, and I mean, I'm already pretty good. But I personally prefer Dexterity in most cases. Here's the hammer that I recommended earlier. Really good gun, really strong. Here's the S12. Again, with the Tech 45 and the Fast Max, the same as I mentioned earlier, the same kind of perks, although you can get away with changing the perks, like you don't need toughness, honestly. So you could swap it around, remove perk 2 grid, and add something like Tactical Mask, for example. That's fully possible, and it would allow you to push houses even more easily, like just going for the shock charges without any problem, or if people just throw a stun at you and already push while it's before it exploded, and then I just realize, oh, He didn't even get stunned. Yeah, you can get this with this. This was just a temporary class. I'm not intending to really use this. I would swap it out for something else. And here's another scar that's only for Nuketon with the FMJ, the fast max, the stock, in this case with tactical mask, to avoid all those really annoying stuns, because they get really annoying. So with this I have to look out that I can't push as aggressively, I can't climb as aggressively, but for the most part it will not pose a problem on Nuketon. Okay, I think now I've gone through everything. I showed you example class setups. I showed you all the weapons, all the perks, all the streaks. And if there are any questions, really feel free to comment. I will address every single question when it comes. Whenever I read it, that's when I will answer it. And normally you won't have to wait very long. Trust me. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You should now be up to date to everything that is in the game. And if anything was left unexplained, let me know. And I will complement this video with any comments should there be more questions. So that's it for this stream. I will play later on. I will eat something first. So if you're curious about that and to see some of the class setups in action, I will probably take about half an hour to eat, and then I'll be right back and play some more. Until then, have a nice evening, or whichever time of day it is.